It's you run out of emotions. You really do. I mean, there were so many things coming at us yesterday that were shocking, that were disappointing, that were depressing. And, you know, by the end of it all, I just constantly trying to get context to this and figuring out what's the best response, what's the proper response. Being shocked and outraged, which you should be. At this point, I'm starting to think that's not the proper response, because that's exactly what he wants. He wants you to be shocked. You know, other people, good friends that I respect for good reason, we're talking about being depressed. I understand being depressed about this too, but that's the wrong emotion too, because that puts you back on your heels. So I don't know, Willie, if we can get to a point where we can be unemotional as Americans about this, but I do know that when we get enraged, which we all have, and which I certainly have time and time again, we're playing right into his hand. That's what he wanted. Somebody tweeted, I thought it was a great insight at the end of the day. I think it was Nick Confessori at the Times, who said Donald Trump took a question about him not recognizing the sacrifice of 4 Americans and turned it into an entire news cycle of fact-checking and fights and battles. And in the process, did something, and I say this without emotion, utterly despicable, regarding John Kelly's dead son. And now has put John Kelly in a position where I just don't know how he continues without an explanation of how Donald Trump, the man he works for, uses his son's death as a political, just sort of a political throwaway line. Yeah. But that's what he did. There's no mistaking it. He used the Kelly family's horrific loss just as a political throwaway line on talk radio.
Yeah, General Kelly, President's chief of staff, of course, lost his son in Afghanistan. Donald Trump brought General Kelly and his son into the conversation yesterday, and it continued last night. The White House says President Trump called the family now of 4 U.S. troops killed by ISIS in Niger 2 weeks ago today. The widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson of Miami Gardens, Florida, was in the car on the way to the arrival of her husband's remains when the president called. Sergeant Johnson's pregnant widow spoke to him on speakerphone, surrounded by family, as well as her Congresswoman, Florida Democrat Frederica Wilson, and Miami-Dade Commissioner Barbara Jordan, who recounted to reporters what President Trump said.
He was saying that he was sorry that she had his sympathy, but he was hoping that even though her husband gave his life for this country, sarcasm, he said, sarcastically he said, but you know, he must have known what he signed up for. And how could you say that to a grieving widow? I couldn't believe, and he said it more than once.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything. She simply listened to what he was saying. And he just talked and talked and talked, and he really never showed any real compassion for what she was feeling.
What the family wants to hear, they want to hear words of encouragement, words of how he fought for his country, what his sacrifice meant to this country, not you know what you signed up for.
So let's just sort of recap what we heard there. So you had those 2 women, elected officials, riding in the car with the widow of Sergeant Johnson on the way to the airport to meet Johnson's remains, and they were on speakerphone when the president did in fact call. Remember, the president had been criticized for not calling. They said he offered his condolences, phone call of about 3 to 5 minutes, but that he said your husband knew what he was getting into. Still obviously a tragedy, and my heart goes out, but your husband knew what he was getting into when he signed up for missions like this. John Meacham just put this into a long list of strange, bizarre interactions that the president has on a daily basis. I mean, we could find 10 or 11 or 12 yesterday of public record that just, again, shows a complete disconnect from the rest of humanity, a complete disconnect from
from compassion, a complete disconnect from basic human emotions that we teach our children from the time they are 2 or 3 years old. And why don't we just go, we'll stay on this story, but you know, when you tell John McCain, a war hero, who has the most progressive form of brain cancer, who is fighting for his life, when you offer a threat, say I'm coming at you, and I can be mean or whatever childish thing he said, sit there going, he will never get it. He's never gotten it. And this has nothing to do with politics. This has everything to do with his lack of humanity. And some of his supporters say, well, McCain attacked him. You know what you do? When somebody is dying, when somebody is fighting for their lives the way he has, sometimes you just sit back and you let it go by, and you end up winning.
And you're the president of the United States.
Most importantly.
So, at this, I mean, even as a candidate, maybe it makes a little more sense, but at this point, it's a pathology. The lack of human empathy, which is not simply a personal failing, but it's also going to have important diplomatic and political consequences.
Let me ask you this, as far as the personal failing goes, because I got into this yesterday on the show and a little bit after the show. We're from the South. And what at least our generation was taught was constantly being polite. People would come from across the country, and all of my friends that would come from the North would say, everybody's so polite. Everybody's so kind. People I don't even know come up and say hello to me. Take them to church, and they, you know, that's what the South had going for it. You know, we have had our problems. But as far as being kind to people that were coming down here, that's what we always took pride in. You know, your parents, I'm sure at times, my parents times, would say, that is not how a Southern gentleman treats a lady. Open the door. You know, walk behind, do this, carry that. For Yankees, and I know you are one, Barnacle, but for Yankees, it's hard to know how much that actually is pounded into your head every day. Your friends, there's even peer pressure. You don't talk to somebody that way. And yet, you have the entire South, it seems. You have evangelicals, especially despicable Pharisees, leaders of the church in the South, kowtowing to this horrific man who has no humanity and is the antithesis of everything we were taught growing up in the South about how you treat other people.
And I think there's going to be some kind of reckoning. Basically, the Republican Party, a lot of, as you say, a lot of our fellow Southerners have sold their soul for temporal power, and the check is bouncing. And I think that the cultural ubiquity of this president is fascinating to me. You know, Andrew Jackson started the president as the central figure, Lincoln as the great war president, TR understood the mass media, he made his kids characters in the national drama, FDR changes everything. But nobody has ever been as top of mind as the 45th president of the United States. And I don't think ultimately that's a good thing. Remember what John Adams said? I study politics and war so my son can study engineering and geography. He studies that so that his son can study literature and philosophy. We're all the way back to point A.
Meek and I were walking out of a restaurant, Caddy, a couple of weeks ago, and we just heard people at every table talking about Trump. None of it was positive. None of it was positive. Everybody was concerned. Everybody was nervous. This was in a Republican area, by the way. We got out of the restaurant, and I turned to her. I said, you know, he doesn't care that everybody in there thinks he's destroying America. The only thing he cares about is that they're talking about him.
He cares about the need to be right. He is always right. He is never wrong. He needs the attention. He wants to be the focus of attention. He wants to be, there was a great piece in the Washington Post, he wants to be in fight mode. But on this issue of fallen soldiers, it was interesting. I reached out to somebody, his father-in-law had served in the military, voted for Donald Trump, and this was the issue that was turning him. He said, you cannot talk about fallen soldiers like this. You cannot bring politics into the lives of families that have suffered this way. And maybe in picking a fight with Barack Obama, picking a fight with the press over this particular incident, you know, I'm skeptical to say it because there have been so many times calling John McCain not a war hero where we've thought this will be it, this will be the moment where Donald Trump loses support. I don't know, but this may be something that even his base finds difficult to swallow.
Let me answer that. No, it will not.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I am too. It was interesting to hear from one person who felt otherwise.
No, it will not, and Mike, this is the worst of all worlds in that, you know, he's not going to be so extraordinarily unpopular that he finally gets the message that, you know, he has to change his ways. At the same time, he can't govern the way he's operating now. We are in a ditch. This country is stuck in a ditch, and it's not going to move forward because he will not be able to get 50 votes for practically anything he wants in the Senate.
Joe, there are no words to convey what the President of the United States did yesterday by injecting John Kelly's son into a political argument. And with all due respect to John Meacham, you have to go into the Wayback Machine. You have to go to history to measure it. You have to go to June 9th, 1954, when Robert Welch, a lawyer representing the United States Army in the Army McCarthy hearings against Senator Joseph McCarthy of Wisconsin, a truly vile figure in American history, at the peak of the Cold War, at the peak of fear of communism being injected into the American political system, when Joseph Welch looked at Joseph McCarthy with the TV cameras going and said, Senator, up until now, I never gauged your cruelty or your recklessness. Have you no sense of decency, sir? And Joe McCarthy had no sense of decency. And now that's the question we're saddled with regard to the sitting President of the United States.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.